All right, welcome to the Protect Maine Elections issue briefing and volunteer training. I'll be going over the, welcome and thank you for joining us. Really excited to be working on this campaign and getting people set up and informed about the work that we're doing. During this presentation, I'll talk a little bit about the organization. I'll explain the ballot initiative. I'll go over a timeline of events for the campaign. I'll talk about petition requirements, what the Secretary of State requires for statewide petition gathering, the actual process of collecting signatures, so getting you set up and comfortable out actually talking to folks and doing the petitioning, returning the materials at the end, and then I'll share some information during the closing. I'll have links to share in the chat at the end that go over some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about, so you can have additional resources, as well as a copy of the slideshow that I am giving out today and the recording that I'm taking. So Protect Maine Elections, it's a 501c4 nonprofit organization working on money and politics issue here in Maine. The ballot initiative, which I'll explain in a moment, is working to ban electioneering by foreign governments and limit corporate spending in elections. And we're partnered with a group called American Promise. It's a national partner that's working to win the 28th Amendment. This is work that they've been doing for some years, creating a groundswelling of support for issues like this. And they've already passed similar resolutions in 29 other states. So they're our national partner. Protect Maine Elections. It's all Maine activists, Maine volunteers working on this issue. All right, so the ballot initiative, an act to prohibit foreign influence in Maine elections and promote an anti-corruption amendment to the US Constitution. It does a couple of things. Part A, the first part is to close a very specific loophole in Maine's campaign finance system. So currently, foreign government-owned entities can donate to Maine ballot campaigns. So this is a basic loophole in our campaign finance system. We've seen this exploited in a recent election. We know that a foreign government-owned corporation openly spent $24 million to influence the outcome of a Maine referendum. And regardless of how you voted on question one, we know that now that a foreign government has successfully exploited this loophole, the door is open for more influence on our elections from beyond our borders. And there was also a recent FEC ruling that ruled that foreign donors can finance US referendum campaigns. So this is a very timely referendum here in Maine. This bill would close that loophole. It would stop those foreign governments and their owned entities from donating to Maine ballot campaigns. It would also require that ad spending was disclosed for foreign entities and mandate that media outlets regulate regulate advertisements to avoid violations of the law. And then part B, which is a bit broader, this is the part that American Promise has brought to the table. This is to reaffirm Maine's support for an anti-corruption amendment to the US Constitution and call on Maine's federal delegation to support the amendment. So basically, this is proposing that Maine legislators support the amendment that American Promise has been working on to allow Congress or the states to set reasonable spending limits or reasonable limits on the raising and spending to influence elections. As we know, with super PAC donations, there are currently no limits to how much people can donate to influence campaigns. And this work would be to encourage our federal legislators to support an amendment to change that policy. Happy to go into more details about the referendum if folks end up having questions at the end. When I'm explaining this out to people, I do like to explain it as a part A and a part B. The two parts are certainly very similar. They both are aimed towards reducing the influence of big money in our political system. They're definitely adjacent issues, but they're a bit separate. So I think, it's all part of the same bill, but explaining it as a part A and a part B has been really beneficial for me. I think folks tend to digest it a little easier that way. So Again, in summary, Part A is to close the loophole that allows foreign government-owned entities to donate to Maine ballot campaigns. And we can give some of the recent examples there to folks to help them put the pieces together. And then Part B is to show Maine support for a US constitutional amendment to put reasonable spending limits on the raising and spending to influence elections. So a little timeline of events here. This bill actually started as a bill in the legislature, LD 194, and I'll share that link after if you'd like to take a look at the bill. This was a bill that passed both the House and the Senate with strong bipartisan support. So we saw that it gained a lot of interest from Maine politicians and Maine voters, and it was enough to pass through both the House and the Senate, though it was eventually vetoed by our governor, so it did not become law. In September of 2021, Protect Maine Elections was formed to try to pass this bill through citizens' initiative, through the referendum process. We began organizing in October, and on November, we had our first big action, which was tabling at the polls on Election Day. And we collected nearly 30,000 signatures from Maine voters around the state. This did very well all throughout the state. We're seeing support on both sides of the aisle. So it's great to finally see an issue where people can come together and work towards. Over the next 6 weeks or so, we're going to be collecting signatures to get to our goal of 80,000 total signatures by December 31st. So we now need to collect 50,000 signatures over the next 6 weeks to place this on the November 2022 ballot. Signature collection will end on December 31st so that we have a few weeks to prepare the signatures to be submitted to the Secretary of State and finish up any odds and ends that we need to do on the back end. And then on January 16th, we'll submit the signatures to the Secretary of State for validation to hopefully be approved for the ballot in 2022. Petition requirements. So each circulator must submit a circulator affidavit. This is a form that you fill out. We provide the form. You fill it out with your the information that's on your voter registration card and swear that you're going to abide by the Secretary of State's rules regarding signature collection. And then that form needs to be notarized and handed in to the campaign. So in order for any of your signatures to be counted, if you're collecting signatures, you must submit a circulator form. And we can certainly help you get set up with a notary if that's a barrier to filling out the affidavit. A person circulating a petition must provide the voter the opportunity to read the proposed initiative and the fiscal impact statement. So, if you're out collecting signatures, it's pretty unlikely that someone's going to read through the 2 pages of the 2-page description of the ballot initiative. It's dense reading, it's written in legal language. So most people aren't going to be interested in getting that deep into the actual bill. But if the main thing here is that we don't refuse them the opportunity to read the proposal if they want to. So making that available, and it's on every petition. So it's right there for folks to access. The petition is 2 pages because there's a long summary and a fiscal note, and those 2 pages have to stay stapled together at all times. So please keep that in mind when you're collecting. You want to put your name at the top of each petition, and there's a little box at the top for you to do so. This is really important. We want to highlight this for folks because if you don't put your name at the top of each petition, they will not be counted for at the Secretary of State's office. So just jot your name in the top corner in order for them to be counted. You need to start a new petition for each town. So the petitions, once they are received by our office, they go into the town offices to be validated. And if you collect more than 1 town on a petition, that petition will need to go to multiple towns to be validated. So instead of doing that, because the logistics of that are very difficult, nearly impossible for the campaign, we collect a specific town for each petition. So for example, if I'm in downtown Brunswick collecting signatures, I'm going to have a page for Brunswick, I'll have a page for Topsom, I'll have a page for Bath, I'll have a separate page for every town that I run into. So it's good to keep a large amount of petitions on you when you're in areas where you'll approach multiple municipalities. Only registered Maine voters may sign the petition. Voters print their information and sign their name. It seems obvious, but oftentimes folks will start to sign under the print form. And then once one person does it, a lot of other folks will follow suit. So we just want to watch as folks fill out the petition to make sure they fill it out correctly. Completed petitions must stay in your possession at all times. So this is a really important one. Until the petitions are notarized, they have to stay in your possession. So the only place where they would be safe that is not in your direct possession would be in your locked home or in your car, something like that. But we can't just leave it on a table and walk away if we're collecting signatures. The Secretary of State's made it very clear that if petitions are left unsupervised while collection is happening, that those petitions will be thrown out. So just keep them in your possession, put them in a bag if you're not collecting, and leave them at home if you're not planning on doing signature collection that day. Petitions must be notarized before returning. It's very important that not only the circulator form get notarized, but each petition must be notarized. And until they are notarized, they have to stay with you. So in order to get them into the town offices or into our possession, you'll first have to get them notarized. We will be doing weekly notary events where we'll provide a notary in different parts of the state. If those are not accessible, we can help you find a remote notary near you. In most instances, your bank or credit union or even the town office will provide a free notary service. But if you are having trouble finding a free notary, you certainly don't have to pay for one. We will make sure that you have access to one. Yes, and as Krista pointed out in the chat, you won't get your petitions notarized until that petition is complete or you're done collecting. So you can continue collecting on a petition as long as it has not yet been notarized. But as soon as it is notarized, that sheet will go into basically a completed pile, submitted to the specific town office or to our campaign, and you'll start collecting on a blank sheet. And collection ends December 31st. All right, so who, what, where, when, and why of collecting signatures. Any registered voter in Maine can circulate petitions and sign petitions. Out-of-state residents can collect if there is a Maine voter observing them. There is a little bit of there's an injunction going on which currently changes that policy, but for our purposes, we are trying to abide by the rule of no out-of-state collectors without a Maine voter observing them. New voters should register before signing the petition. So if someone wants to sign up to vote so they can sign the petition, they should do so before signing. What materials do I need to get started? You'll need your petition sheets, which we can provide you. We have regional captains all around the state where you can access those petitions. And if you live in a remote part of the state or are unable to drive to one of our captains, we can either deliver them to you or mail them to you. So we're willing to work with you to get you set up to help. You'll need your completed circulator form. A clipboard is really helpful. The petitions are 18 by 11, so a standard clipboard can be a little small. You can fold the petitions on a standard clipboard, or you can buy a large clipboard, or I've even cut a piece of plywood with a clip. That's the size of the petitions. That can be really helpful because you'll need a surface for folks to sign if you're outstanding collecting petitions. Another option is to have a little table if you're allowed to have a table at the location you're collecting at. Good to have both if you can. You'll need plenty of pens in case some stop working, especially in the cold. This tends to happen. You want to make sure they're black or blue ink only. And we also want to abide by all COVID protocols. So bring your personal protective equipment. That means masks, sanitizer, keeping socially distanced while you're out there as much as possible. And then other materials may include a table, a chair, a sign. We do have signs we can, or an 8.5 by 11 graphic that we can print out for folks. Yes, TV dinner trays work well. That's a great little trick. See how creative folks can get with their signature signing surfaces. All right. Whoa. Get back here. Sorry, folks. There we go. all right, where can I collect? So, we really want to look at public locations because some private locations where folks do business, you're not allowed to stand on the property to collect signatures. So any public locations, you should be fine. Some good ideas there are like post offices can be really good. Stand in front of a post office where there's a lot of traffic. Most of those folks are registered to vote. They're all from one town. So it makes the whole petitioning process really easy. The same thing with transfer stations. This weekend, we're having a big weekend of action to dump foreign influence from Maine elections. That would be encouraging folks to collect signatures at their local transfer stations. And we've contacted many of the transfer stations already to gain approval, and we can get you set up at one near you where signature collection is effective. So if you're watching this, this will be the weekend of November 20th and 21st. But we will be doing this throughout the next, until the end of December. So attending your local transfer station at any point could be really beneficial for signature collection. Busy main streets, I'm thinking places like Brunswick or Belfast or Waterville or Norway, places around the state where there's a lot of foot traffic in the downtown area can be really good for collecting signatures. Local farmers markets are great. In front of libraries, parks. These are all good places, public places where you can collect signatures. You're really looking just for places with high foot traffic. So that would be like 30 or more people passing by per hour. In terms of private locations, we can collect anywhere where we have permission, and oftentimes local businesses will provide that permission. It's a little harder to get bigger box stores to approve that kind of request, but certainly, the mom and pop shops in your local town will often allow you to set up out front and sometimes even inside. So it's often worth approaching them, especially if you know the business owners. It can oftentimes work out. And then you want to look for big events like concerts, festivals. We're in the holiday season, so there's going to be parades and tree lighting festivals. Those are great opportunities. Anytime there's a rally, we often see art walks throughout Maine. Those are good opportunities. There's going to be a lot of plays coming up, theater events. So anytime you've got a big event where there's going to be a large crowd, especially if there's a waiting line outside, those are great opportunities to collect signatures. When should I be out collecting? So we want to just try to be out there during busy times. So if this is an event, you want to be there maybe 30 minutes before it starts and stay throughout. If you're just collecting at the post office, the busy times are going to be in the morning and after folks get out of work in the evening, lunch breaks, etc. So just keeping that in mind when you go out. Look for regular events like we talked about, the farmers markets, the art walks. Those are great because you can go back at regular intervals, go in every Saturday to the farmers market, gets a good amount of signatures. If you're going out door to door, this is another method for collecting signatures. You can go out, canvass your neighborhood, go door to door. But if you do that, you want to go out on evenings and weekends when folks are going to be home. And, the minimum time commitment, well, it's really whatever you have available. But we ask folks to try to put in a couple hours every week, maybe 10 hours a month if you can. And we're happy to set you up with events. So if you're interested in collecting and you want to get plugged into an event near you, we have a long list of opportunities near you. So reach out to one of your organizers and I'll share those contacts at the end. And we'll make sure to get you plugged into an event where you have a lot of potential for signature collection. And how do I get started? So I've talked about a lot of this stuff already, but everyone has their own style. Some people prefer street canvassing, which is just standing on the street in a busy area and approaching people as they walk by. Some people prefer to have a table. So those often, that often means that it's going to be an event. So for example, you can set up a table in some areas on the sidewalk in front of a post office, a farmer's market, but sometimes you actually need permission to set up a table. So selective events will be allowed. We will be allowed to have a table with multiple volunteers and a sign. Door-to-door canvassing is another option. People even will take their petitions to Thanksgiving or to family and friends over the holidays. That can be really successful. Some people will take the petitions to work. You can also just hold the petitions at your home and ask people to stop by to sign. So there's a lot of different options, and we can kind of work with whatever folks are able to do. Some of the ways to approach people if you're out street canvassing or going door to door is, the initial impressions are so important. Just being really friendly, is the number one thing. This is pretty, straightforward, I think, common sense, but, be friendly, wave. Your tone of voice is important. Make eye contact. Body language is very important. You don't want to chase someone down the street yelling at them to sign your petition. If they don't want to sign, you don't have to push back too much. If they're really engaging and asking good questions and they want to learn more, it's definitely okay to educate and push back a little bit. But if someone just doesn't want to sign, we don't want to be too aggressive. So finding that balance is important. When you are like out in a public area, you'll need an opening line to catch people's attention. So try using different opening lines to see what works for you. A really basic one would be, are you a registered Maine voter? So that opens up the conversation. They'll either say yes or no. And from there, you can talk a little bit about what the issue is, or even using something a little catchier, a little more, something that might catch their attention. So do you want to stop corruption in Maine elections would be one example. Do you want to reduce the influence of special interest money or big money in our political system? Those are issues that people will get excited about and will stop and want to talk about. Next, you'll want to find out where they're registered to vote and get the clipboard in their hands. So at this point, you should have your petitions organized by usually by town, so that they're easily accessible. So like we mentioned, you'll have a different municipality on each form, and then when you find out what town they're registered to vote in, you can pull out their petition and put the clipboard in their hand. Just want to make sure that they know to fill it out legibly. Make sure that you can read the information that they provide. Make sure that they fill in the appropriate fields so that the address is in the address column, the print name is in the print column. Don't leave fields blank, and don't abbreviate. So, for towns, for example, if you were going to write South Portland, you could write out the full South Portland. You could put S period Portland, but abbreviations like SOPO or OOB for Old Orchard Beach are frowned against. So having folks write out the full town is best. And then, as I said, first impressions are so important. It's oftentimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it and how you connect to folks. So, just being friendly, and oftentimes people are willing to sign, even if they don't know a lot about the issue. And even if they're, sometimes even if they're leaning against the issue, just to put it on the ballot for more discussion and a statewide vote. So that's another pitch too, when you're talking to folks, if they seem like maybe they're not interested or they just don't have enough information, just remind them this is just to put it on the ballot. It'll get both sides to express their opinion, and then we can make an informed decision at the ballot box in November of 2022. Once you're done collecting signatures, you'll get your petitions notarized. We'll turn them in to the appropriate towns. If that's something that you're able to do, if you can bring them to the towns to get validated, that will save us a lot of time and effort. But if that's something that's not reasonable for you to do, then you can bring them back to the campaign, and we'll do that portion for you. Once they're validated by the towns, if you're the one doing the validation, you'll go back and get the petitions and then get them back to us. There's two ways, or really three ways, that you can return your petitions. The first that I have listed here is to mail them. Our mailing address is currently Protect Maine Elections, P.O. Box 182, Raymond, Maine 04071. And that is a temporary post office box. We will be moving to Portland. We'll continue to get mail at that post office box, but we'll be shifting to a Portland P.O. box in the future to make it more accessible for our office. So if you're watching this recording in the future, just keep in mind, you may want to check with us first before mailing items to see if we've set up that Portland P.O. box yet. You can deliver the petitions to our physical address. That's 14 Cleve Street in Portland, Maine. We do not keep regular office hours at this time, so you'll want to contact one of our organizers beforehand to make sure that someone will be at the office to receive your petitions. And a final way that I don't have listed here would be to return them to your regional captains once they're notarized. So once you sign up to help, I'll connect you to your regional captain so that you can have a working relationship with that individual, and they can help you to get set up with petitions, circulator forms, and to take your materials once they're completed. And as I stated before, petitions must be notarized before they are sent back. You can hold on to any blank petitions until you're finished collecting signatures. It is helpful for us to get these back as soon as possible. So if you fill out a few forms, it'd be good to send them in, even if you're still collecting, because that will give us more time to process them in our office. And thank you so much for being here tonight, for watching the training, for joining Protect Maine Elections. This came together in a short amount of time. We started the campaign at the beginning of October and managed to scramble together an amazing election day effort. And I've just been so impressed and so grateful for all of the volunteer support. We already have hundreds of people around the state collecting signatures. We already have thousands of signatures in the bank. Just the extra effort that everyone has gone to get this up and running is truly amazing. We've got folks helping all across the state, and it's very inspiring, and I'm so grateful. So thank you so much. And then in closing, I just wanted to put this information up on the screen. Charlotte and I will be your coordinators, your organizers. So if you have questions, if you need extra petitions, if you need to be put in touch with your regional captain, whatever you need throughout the process, we're here to help. Truly any questions you have, feel free to reach out to myself or Charlotte, and we can help out. And there's the address one more time at the bottom: Protect Maine Elections, P.O. Box 182, Raymond, Maine. At this time, I'm going to, stop the recording.